What's up, guys? Welcome back to the KingdomCore Podcast. It's your host, Sean here. Chris is with me.
Yo. What's up?
And, man, that was a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Really cool conversation for both of us. If you didn't already know, which you probably should have because you clicked on this episode, we talked to Kevin and Joey from Disciple, which was just so fun for me. Disciple was literally, I was just telling Chris, like, if you go back on the timeline of like me with music that's like that has screaming in it, they were the beginning. Yeah. So just a really cool full circle for me.
And they were probably my first time hearing screams in music as well. And I was very hesitant to keep listening, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
I pushed through
I've been listening to them 13, 14 years. You said how long?
17. 2007. So, yeah, I think that's 17 years, if I can math right.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. It's been a long time, and it's like, you know, I've been a massive fan for ever since. And, you know, Scars Remain was my introduction. Horseshoes and Hand Grenade. Oh, no, Southern Hospitality. I remember when that came out. Yeah. Anyways. Long time. I was about to say Southern Hospitality didn't hit me as hard because I was at the time adamantly against any sort of country / Southern sounding music.
Oh my gosh!
So it didn't click with me.
That album is a sleeper.
I just listened to it.
Good jams on it.
Yeah, and 3-2-1, absolute classic.
3-2-1 is so good, especially live.
It's I think that's one of their better live tracks. But
I agree. Yeah. If you guys don't know, and you guys will hear about it probably straight from the get-go, but they have been doing a lot of promo for their new song "Promise to Live," which is basically making a pact that if you're suicidal, that you are promising to live. So this was a very special episode for us, not only because it was Disciple, but just because of that, and getting to talk about that message of mental health and suicidal thoughts and any of that sort of topics.
Yeah, no, definitely some deep conversations, great stories about, you know, interactions they've had with the fans over the last almost year since the album came out. Yeah, also looking into some of the recording process of Skeleton Psalms and some of their older discography as well, and talking about the different eras of Disciple and Disciple 3.0, where we are now.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. It was such a pleasure to meet Kevin and Joey, and
absolutely,
I'm excited for you guys to get to hear this episode because that was one of my favorites. And just before we hop into this episode, we want to thank our Patreon supporters. You guys have stuck by us through our 3-month absenteeism again.
Yes.
You guys are absolute rock stars. So our Patreon core givers, we got Fabian Richter, Daniel Harding, Jonathan Lyman, Steve Michalowski, Anthony Kuchma, Frankie Blocker, and Aaron Peter. Guys, thank you so much. And our true fans, you're all true fans, but Dead Pedal Coffee Company,
they
been
are
with us
true
since the beginning. Yeah, you guys are
they have.
Amazing. So thank you all so much for sticking by us, and we hope that you guys really enjoy this episode. So let's hop into the conversation with Kevin and Joey. Skeleton Psalms, new record. I mean, it's been out for almost a year.
Almost a year, yeah.
That's crazy.
Gosh.
Does it feel like
it felt like that long?
No, that's just weird that I feel like my life just keeps flying by.
Yeah.
Where did that time go? That's weird.
Yeah. I mean, you've put out a lot of records, man. You know, I was thinking it's been almost 30 years of Disciple.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's been 30. It's been more than 30 for me.
Yeah.
What day did the album release last year?
April 28th.
Okay.
Yeah. So almost, not quite.
Yeah. So this time last year, we were like literally just constantly having conversations of like, when is the next single coming out, and getting all the stuff set up.
Yeah. Has there been any particular songs live that the crowd connects with, or that you guys particularly enjoy?
This one, you know, for sure, Promise to Live is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Whenever we get to talking about it, like it blows me away, like the idea of the power behind a song,
Absolutely.
just like, we're all just pretty normal guys. I don't want to say that we're not extraordinary, because the guys in the band are completely extraordinary, but we're still just people. So, it's not like we think that we're capable of superhuman feats or whatever. They're amazing musicians, and that's what they're really good at. But like, just the power of a song, it's crazy. It's just like transcends everything when there's this message and there's melody and it's well done, and we're off just doing something else very human, and there's these miracles that just happen, and it's not, obviously not just us, it's with any kind of music and any kind of message, really. A Celine Dion song, really. I remember being at a Celine Dion concert and singing the Near Far song, whatever that one's called. I can't even think what it is.
My Heart Will Go On.
My Heart Will Go On. And I remember like feeling like I was in church or something, just like this music, it's just miraculous, man. Music has just this power of reaching you where other messengers can't. And this Promise to Live has just been a song that has been just very powerful. So we're thankful to be a part of it.
That's really
awesome. That was cool. So you guys did like a partnered merch drop with Heart Support there the other week.
Yeah.
Did
that have a good response?
You have to ask him, man. We did it for him. I don't know.
The last number that he sent us, as far as like how much money it raised, was a really good one. So I think it was well received, and it was very successful.
Awesome.
That's so sweet. I'd love to Kevin, you're talking about how like it like transcends everything. I'd love to hear like just how that, like, what was the concept for that song? Like, where did that song begin? Take us through the writing process of that.
That it's mind-blowing, really, because again, we're just normal. And we make a lot of mistakes, and we make a lot of mistakes as songwriters specifically. And so this is kind of why this song is so special, why it's so powerful, why it's so, all those things that this song is I didn't really believe in it at first.
Okay.
I wasn't really into it.
Like musically or like, okay.
As from a song level, because we get in our head a lot about writing a song. We're not just all trying to save the world the whole entire time we're writing a song. Sometimes we're just trying to write a good song that we think, hopefully will pay the bills, and hopefully somebody will turn it up and enjoy it. And Josiah, our guitar player, is the one that actually wrote the song, or most of it, at least the initial ideas. And when he brought it to me, one really cool thing about this band and the guys in this band is we really trust each other. And so we allow each other to kind of give their opinion of a song, which is just amazing to have as a band, because this is the third iteration of Disciple that I've been in.
Disciple 3.0, right?
Disciple 3.0 is what we call it. And that freedom was not there in either of the two versions of Disciple, of just being able to give your opinion about a song and it being well received. And these guys, we all do it to each other, and it's always very well received. It doesn't mean everybody agrees, but it's just like it's allowed and encouraged, and it's really a beautiful thing. And so, that being said, Josiah plays the song for me, and it has these just killer verses that are very similar to what made it on the album. And then it had this chorus that said "Run to Me," and some other things. And I just was like, I don't really like that chorus. And then that bridge that's there, that's "This is not your downfall." He had that. And I was like, this verse is really good, and this bridge is off the charts, like 100 on a scale of 1 to 2. It's like really good.
Yeah.
I was like, but it's weird that you have a bridge that's like way better than the chorus and better than the verse. So I was like, let's see if we can't, come up with a chorus. So he and Andrew got together, and there was this old, so for people that don't know much about Disciple, we're very evangelistic and talk about our faith from the stage. And so there was this message I was giving from the stage years ago, and it was basically called Promise to Live, and it was encouraging people that were struggling with self-harm or depression, suicidal thoughts, to make a promise to live. And after that message, I had several people come up to me and say that they had made that promise, and then years later say, I'm still keeping my promise. And so it was kind of a special thing, and there's who knows why I said that message at that given time. Who knows, right? But they were working on the song without me and said, hey, remember Kevin had that message years ago called Promise to Live. Why don't we, that might fit with these verse ideas. And it definitely fits with this bridge idea. And they brought it to us. And again, I was just kind of like, it's all right. It's all right. I just wasn't feeling it for a lot of reasons. Then we kept working on it. We kept doing this. And usually what happens is the more work we put into the song, the more we don't know if it's any good or not. The more like you've like cultivated it and just really got into it, because then you're not listening to it from a fan perspective anymore, or audience perspective. You're listening to it as a critic and as someone who's like trying to create this thing. And by the time the end of it, you're like, I think it's good. I don't know. You tell me. Yeah. And so we put all this work into it, and we thought it was good. We thought it was a really good song. I don't think that any of us thought much more than that. You have to ask Joey what he thought. But when we got an offer to play Winter Jam, what happened was we had this album, Skeleton Psalms, that was getting ready to come out 4 months after Winter Jam starts, or 3 months after Winter Jam starts. And we wanted to play a new song, but we were like, oh gosh, this is Winter Jam. This is arenas. This is moms and dads and youth groups and youth group leaders.
Can't scare them away.
We just recorded one of the heaviest albums we've ever recorded.
Right.
And the song that we were, really excited to play was a song called The Executioner. We made a video for it, and it's like so heavy, and it's got all this dark, imagery, and it's this music video where it's like they're just leading me to my death the entire video. And I was like, we were like, I don't know if this is a good idea to play on Winter Jam. They might, like run for the exits if we play this. So we thought the only song that we had off the new album that was marketable for that audience was Promise to Live. Mm-hmm. And it's just so funny because it's like, again, as human beings, and we mess up and screw up all the time. And obviously I screwed up. I just did not see the beauty and the power of the song. I didn't really respect it or understand it. And we'd worked so hard to make it what I would consider a good song. And then sure enough, we start playing this song, and every single night, man, somebody would come up to the table after us and say one of 3 or 4 things. Either I was going to commit suicide tonight, and now I heard that song, and now I make a promise to live. Or I tried to commit suicide a week ago. I heard that song tonight, and I make you a promise to live. Or I was planning on committing suicide next week, and I heard the song tonight. And I mean, is every single night, Joey can attest, he's, right there. We was see, and when people say that to us, you want to do good things. You want to make a difference in the world. You want to do things, but when it's the power of the song, you realize you had very little to do with it. And especially the fact that I wasn't even a huge fan of the song to begin with, I wasn't even like, it just is evident how little I had to do with how powerful it was. It was just like God just kind of created this thing in spite of me, especially, and just said, there's these people. The only way this band is ever going to play this song is if they get this Winter Jam opportunity. And there's these people that are going to be coming to this show that need to hear this message. And it all just went from there. And I think we released it to radio after that, Joey, and it was at number 1 for how long?
16 weeks straight.
Wow.
The longest, the most successful, the most successful single we've ever had, and I didn't even believe in it to begin with.
Isn't that how it always is?
Yes.
I mean, it was literally a song that was almost like dead in the water before it even got started, and then became our most successful radio song. And like he just said, every night of Winter Jam, like there wasn't a night that was skipped where it wasn't at least one person And I would say actually most nights it was way more than one person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Coming up, saying I tried to commit suicide a couple weeks ago, or I was planning on it tonight. And I mean, it's wild.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's so amazing.
Yeah, that's
It was crazy. I'll tell you one story in particular that really made an impact on me was this wife came up, the husband like stood off of a distance and, just didn't want to even say a word for whatever reason, shy or whatever. And she said, my husband struggles with suicide and tonight made a promise to live. And then how long was it till we saw him again, Joey? Do you remember? Was it weeks or a couple months later we saw him again?
I think it was a couple months.
It's a couple months later. And we saw him again, and she makes a comment similar to like he's made that promise and he's sticking to it. His life was forever changed, that night after hearing that. And the one thing that sticks out about that is when people are struggling with things, we usually keep it from a very individualistic perception. And this was this person's spouse that was like, thank you. And a lot of people who are struggling with depression and suicide, they kind of believe the lie that nobody loves them and nobody cares about them. That's really just something they're fighting by themselves. And they don't really realize, how it's affecting the people around them. And that was really good for me to see. It was this wife. Like the guy didn't even ever say, I don't think he ever even said a word to me. It was the wife. There's all these other people that were coming up for themselves and were saying, hey, this song's changed my life. But this particular instance, it wasn't the person whose life was changed. It was the person who loved the person whose life was changed. Does that make sense?
No,
and
absolutely.
it just really helped me to see like, man, this thing is, people need to know that there's people out there that love them, that when their life is turned around, like there's people that are grateful, and when you're hurting, there's other people that are hurting because you're hurting, that because it's the lie that you're facing it alone and going through it alone. It's totally not true because it's always affecting somebody around you.
Yeah, I think no matter who you are, like even if you do feel like truly, truly alone, no matter who you are, there is somebody that loves you
Always.
And cares about you
and looks up to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And needs you,
Yeah, no, that's so cool. I think something about that song kind of also reminds me a little bit, different topic, but kind of like when you guys released Dear X on Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Like it's a similar feel, it's kind of like I don't know what you call it, a power ballad or kind of like a slightly softer song. But I remember back when that came out, it was kind of a similar thing where like that was like the lead single, and I remember hearing stories online, even though we didn't have the same online presence back then.
Right.
Just how impactful that was to people. Because I saw you guys at Creation Northwest 2010, and I think you guys said, if I'm not mistaken, that was the second time ever that you were going to play that song or something like that, like the second live audience, something like that. Wow. I remember it, and you guys released pre-orders for the album and all that, but I was in youth group at the time, so it was that album cycle and leading on was such a huge impact to me personally.
You made it, man.
Thank you guys.
You're grown up now. Congratulations. You did it.
Well, when you were saying you've been in Disciple for over 30 years, like doing this band.
Oh yeah.
I am
more
I am turning 30 in June.
And I'm the only one got to do that, man.
Well, I can tell you for a fact, we tell people what year, Disciple started, but it's not necessarily true. I actually played my first show in a band we called Disciple with me and the original drummer. We called this band Disciple. It just wasn't the Disciple that everyone knew. It was a Disciple with two other friends of ours from school. Yeah. And my first show in Disciple was September of 1990.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
So that's definitely more than 30 years ago,
right?
No, I wish.
You were in high school though, or something, right? When that's
1990, I was 14.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
But still, that's cool. That
that is cool.
Trace it all the way back to being a 14-year-old starting, and
Yeah.
you're still doing this all these years later. So
Yeah, 1990. Let's see. I remember these pants we were wearing. I think they were skater pants. They were called skids, maybe, or like I can't remember.
They're like the parachute pants.
Yeah, they were kind of parachutey a little bit. But they were like total skater style, and that was my style as a 14-year-old, just skater kid.
I love that.
Did you ever wear
I was never good at
Jinko?
skating, but I tried so hard and like just road rashed my face. I can't even explain to you how many times, just trying.
Did you ever wear the
it's like
Jinko or
that.
Lee pipes?
Jinko for like a minute, maybe. I was poor, so I didn't have enough money for those.
Joey, how long have you been in the band now? And maybe you want to tell us a little bit of how that came about, how you guys joined up together.
Yeah.
Did I hear boat? A boat? Did I hear a boat? Sorry.
Chris is Canadian, so that's how he said
Is that your Canadian?
I was like, do you hear a boat? I was like, I don't think so.
Somebody's from north of us.
So New Year's Day of this year was 10 years that I've been in the band officially.
Wow. That's amazing.
Which is nuts. I auditioned in the fall of 2013 in October, and had played the shows and whatnot, and I still had a couple of commitments that I was obligated to for the rest of that year. So that's why I started officially on New Year's Day of 2014. But how that came about was I played for a indie pop rock band called After Edmund that was in the Christian rock scene for a while back in like the late 2000s, late like 2008, 9, 10. Landed a job with them, and that was my first touring act, I guess, and was with them for 2 years. And at the end of 2013, Disciple was going on a 2-week run, and it was between us and 2 other bands. I can't remember who it was. Josiah actually knows who it was, that Disciple had a choice of taking out, and all these bands had production at the time because that was before Disciple carried all the sound rig and the lighting and all that. So they would bring out bands that owned production, and that's why we owned production, so we could get on tour with bands. And so we ended up getting selected, and I'd been a Disciple fan since I was in middle school. I worked at a Christian bookstore when I was in high school selling their CDs. I worked at a Christian radio station as a DJ and played Disciple music on the air all the time. Just huge fan. So when we went on this tour, I was losing my mind. I was a little bit of a fanboy. And what I did not know is that I went to church with a guy. His name's Evan Silver, who used to be in a Christian rock band called Chasen. I'm not sure if you remember Chasen. They did a little bit.
Heard of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I only knew Evan as did he play bass, Kev, or was it guitar?
Guitar.
I only knew him as the guitar player of Chasen. I had no idea that he worked with Disciple. And so
He became our tour manager there for a while.
Yeah, Evan had been their tour manager. So we're going out on the road with them, and Evan calls me one day, and he goes, "Hey, man, what if I told you that Disciple might be interested in auditioning you for their new drummer?" And I was like, I don't. Why? Like, they got a drummer. He's like, Trent's leaving. And Kevin had asked me if I knew any drummers, and I put your name in the pot, and it just so happens you're going out on tour with them. And I was like, "Are you serious right now?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "So don't screw it up." And he basically telling me, play good while you're out on the road. And so that was my opportunity to play in front of Kev and the rest of the guys. And so they got to see me play a completely different style of music, but my style of music was Disciple. That's what I learned how to play drums doing. And
And Trent, our drummer at the time, walked me out of the bus and said, "I want to show you your next drummer," because he was leaving the band.
No way. That's so cool.
He said, "I want." He said, "I want to show you your next drummer," and he walked me over to. I guess we were playing outside a tent or something
in Lima, Ohio.
I watched the whole Joe. Yeah, I watched the whole set and watched Joey play and was like, "Yep, I guess that's our next drummer."
Thought I was going to
awesome.
thought I was going to puke seeing him on the side stage, and yeah. So asked me if I wanted to come out and audition, and almost lost the job completely over a Clemson football game. It's a story. Okay, I'll try to keep it short. So basically, they were out on a 6-week-long tour with Audio Adrenaline and Stellar Cart that fall. And
Throwback.
They just so happened to be auditioning 5 or 6 drummers.
30 years, remember? 30 years.
Say what now?
30 years we've been around. That proved it right there. We were touring with Audio Adrenaline.
So they had a list of like 5 or 6 drummers. So they decided each week of that tour, each drummer was going to get a week to come out on the road, hang out on the bus, play the shows. Because the audition phase is way more than can you play the notes. It's how is this person when they're not on stage,
hang time.
How are they in the bus and their temperament and their attitude and all this stuff, so a lot of factors. And Kev was like, he's like, "Hey, can you do this particular week?" And it was actually in the region of the country that I live in the South. And I was like, "Actually, man, I can't. I got Clemson football tickets for that Saturday." And like a dummy, I didn't explain what the Clemson football tickets were. They were field passes that a friend of mine had worked a very long time on getting them for me. And I got to march down with the drum line and all this stuff. So it was like
that's cool.
But I posed this to Kevin as I just got Clemson football tickets and I can't make it the whole week because I got tickets to the game. So that right there put a little bit of a bad taste. Just like, this guy does not want this job. He's like blowing us off to go to a Clemson football game. So Evan, who I told you about,
I'll tell you what I actually thought.
Yeah.
I thought if he's going to miss an opportunity to try out over this, then what's he going to miss when he gets the job? That's what what went through my head. Yeah.
Yep.
So go ahead.
So Evan calls me and he goes, I'm like, "Hello." He goes, "What in the crap are you doing?" And I don't know that he said crap. He might have said another word. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Bro," he's like, I think you might have messed up with this whole Clemson football thing. He's like, "I talked to Kev." He's like, "That didn't really look good." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot." So it worked out perfectly. Disciple was playing a show in Greenville, South Carolina, which is about 40 minutes from where I live, on that tour. And it was that week that I had blown off to go to this Clemson game. And I was like, you know what? Instead of calling Kevin, I'm going to drive to the show and I'm going to say I'm sorry in person and explain to him, like face to face. And so I did. I drove over there and was like, can I come hang out at the show? And then I caught him coming out of the door after a sound check. And I was like, "Bro," I realized that I rubbed you the wrong way with that. This is what it was. And I explained the whole thing. He goes, "Oh, well, why didn't you tell me all that?" And I was like, "I didn't think. I just wasn't thinking." And I basically was like, "I will clear off the rest of my year. Like, I will cancel everything that I've got going on. Whatever you need, if you give me another chance." And he was like, "Yeah, cool."
It's almost better that it went that way because it's just how it kind of worked out. You just saw how much he wanted to be here,
Yeah.
And that was kind of where I was like already having been through 2 iterations of Disciple. I just wanted people that just wanted to be here,
Yeah.
And he's been here for 10 years, so I think he wants to be
stuck
here.
it out.
Yeah.
But
He might still be undecided.
Yeah, it's a fun story.
Earned
Anytime
your way off the hook, you can leave at any point.
Yeah.
Oh man, he was never like in hot. There was never any like. He always brings up things that I'm supposed to remember him in a negative light, and I let stuff go really easily, and he'll bring up something. He go, "Oh, remember when I did this stupid thing?" And I'm like, I haven't thought about that like ever until you bring it up, you know.
And Joey's thought about it every night trying to fall asleep.
Seriously, if he hadn't have said that and told you guys that whole entire story right now, I don't know that I would have thought about it for the rest of my life.
Well, I can't watch a Clemson football game without thinking like, wow, I almost didn't have a career because of you. You know?
So that's cool. Well, dude,
so
you've been in the band for 10 years.
Yeah.
Were you part of the recording process for Attack?
I was.
Was
I
that?
believe. Yeah.
So that was your rehearsal.
Yeah. So like I said, I was kind of fulfilling some commitments to After Edmond for the remainder of 2013, and we had gone to Europe for a month. And while I was in Europe, Josiah was sending me the demos for Attack so I could start listening to it. And I thought, I was like, I knew that they were recording a new record at the beginning of 2014. And I was like, they're probably going to get, you know, somebody like Lester or Trent or somebody to like record drums on this record. I'm probably not going to be doing anything. And they sent me the demos and they were like, start writing. And I was like, okay. And so I'm in Europe, awesome. Just like, you know, starting to think through parts and everything. And then we got to the recording process. I was like, am I doing the whole record? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh. So that was a very nerve-wracking experience. But it turned out good, you know?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Disciple records. Yeah. I love that album.
Oh, thank you.
Man.
It's one of my favorite too.
It's really good. Does it feel like it's been 10 years for that one? I know we already asked if it feels like it's been a year for Skeleton Psalms.
It does. It does. That one feels like it was a long time ago for some reason. The other ones don't. Like the very next one, I guess, Long Live the Rebels, that doesn't feel that long ago. And that was
that doesn't feel that long ago to me.
It was eight years ago.
It feels like a couple years ago.
Yeah, that doesn't feel very long ago at all. But Attack does. It feels very nostalgic. That was fun because we were just coming off of a record label, and it was a great experience with this record label. And so for me to say something negative about them might think that it was a negative experience, but it wasn't. It was a great experience. They're a fantastic label. But they did, you know, kind of like put their input into like the lyrics and stuff. And sometimes they would say, you know, hey, we think this is kind of cheesy, you know, and you know, or this is kind of, you know, a little too Christian or something like that. And that's all so subjective, you know, like what someone thinks is cheesy or what someone thinks is too Christian. And especially when you are a Christian and you're excited about being a Christian and you're writing a Christian song and you are just saying something that is just how you feel about, you know, something. It's like sometimes you just need people to take their opinions and shove it because you're just like, this is me. I am creating this art that is real to how I feel about something. And I felt like I couldn't say any of the things that I wanted to. So Attack, it was like, here we go. All the things that I felt like I couldn't say for the last 5 albums, you know, we went hard.
And so you kicked it off with Radical.
We went very, very hard. You know, like I had these lines like Prince of Peace, you know, all these kind of things. And I remember specifically, you know, this label hearing, you know, that phrase and was like, Prince of Peace, man, that's kind of cheesy. And it's like, this is the language of Christianity. I'm sorry, you know, I'm like, this is, you know, what he is, you know, there's a reason why he is that. I want to say it. That's how I want to express it, you know, like that. I'm sure I could get creative and figure out a different way to say it, but it was very important to me to just be blatant and to be bold and to not care whether it was perceived as cool, because cool is like the is just the enemy of you being authentic to yourself when you're trying to be cool. Because the coolest thing that you could ever be is yourself, without worrying what other people think. That is the absolute epitome of cool, when you can walk into a room and just know that whatever someone's opinion of you doesn't matter. You know, this is not gonna, and that's what I wanted to accomplish with that album, is literally just say, this is how I really feel. This is what I really want to say. And whoever wants to buy it, buy it. Whoever doesn't, listen to something else. You know, like that's kind of how I felt about it. So I appreciate you liking that album.
Awesome.
Sometimes artists, we just have to do that. You know what I mean? Like, because we play the game for, if you get in the industry, you'll play the game for a lot, and the game's fun, you know, and we'll write a song that's a little bit of a sellout type of song because, you know, somebody smarter than you and more talented than you and drives a nicer car than you thinks it's a good idea. And so then at some point you're just like, I want to write the song that I want to write.
Yeah.
And, so
it's funny you say that. I remember the first time I ever saw you guys, it was back when you guys toured with Red and Spoken back on the Recalibrated tour back 10 years ago. And I saw you guys play at Chain Reaction in Southern California. And I remember
that show.
I remember when you said, when you were about to play Radical, because like nobody knew you guys were dropping a new album. That song hadn't come out yet. And I remember you saying something on stage very similar to that, like, we're not holding back. And then you guys played that. And I was just blown away. I was like, wow, they really are not holding back. So
yeah,
that was the show.
I think that there's something. Yeah, no, go ahead, please.
No, I wasn't going to say anything serious. I was going to say that was the show where the front of my drum or my kick drum was at the front of the stage, and you had about this much room to stand on right in front of my kit.
It's a tiny stage.
I mean, it's very narrow.
Yeah,
it's a very narrow room, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like
why do I remember that? Yeah, I don't. But there's something really awesome about, I think, the bands that I grew up to, because I'm obviously older. Just there was something really cool about the boldness of those bands and what they were talking about whenever they were talking about Jesus and things. And because there, you know, it was immediate, you know, my friends were like, that's, you know, it's pretty lame, you know, or whatever. And it was kind of like this thing. It was like, they're taking a chance, you know, this is what a risk, you know, they're taking. You just like, they're either going to be loved or hated or appreciated because they're good musicians, but, you know, man, I don't know if I want to hear them talk about that or whatever. So it was this risk, it was this boldness or whatever. You go and watch these bands perform, and I just was like in awe of how bold, you know, risky everything felt. And, you know, I found out that it's no different for us. It's still risky. You know, there's always people that can benefit from you that are trying to get you to be less risky. You know, they're like, you know, and at some point you just believe in the miracle of what you're doing, that there's things that are just bigger than yourself. I've kind of realized that I'm not going to be here forever. And like the things that I could accomplish, you know, as a human are very small. But just like the parable of or not the parable, but the story of the little kid who had some fish and some loaves of bread, and Jesus says, "What do we have?" And he says, "This is all I have." And he takes it and he does this miracle with it and multiplies it, and all these people benefit from it. I feel like that is the story of my life, that I've never had much to give, I've never had much to offer, but I've given it to him, and he's multiplied it and made me look a whole lot better than what I really do and how I really am. And I feel like that's our music, the miracle of music, and especially the song that we're here to talk about, "Promise to Live," is just another perfect example of just this little thing that we had that he took and kind of turned into this amazing thing that's really making a difference for people.
That's awesome. Absolutely. I'd love to hear, Joey. I'd love to hear your perspective on "Promise to Live," like when you first heard it, and just like how that was for you, the writing process of it.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it only because, you know, the messaging behind it. I've had my fair share of struggles with my own personal, you know, mental health, depression and anxiety over the years, and just knowing how important it is to reach people who are hurting and lonely with that form of music. I know how important it is because music played that role for me when I was in high school and college. And now, you know, when I'm going through stuff, like I've got a great friend base around me, the guys in the band. I've got an excellent family that I can lean on. So I don't really go for like music to help me through stuff much anymore. I know that I can like go have like conversations and whatnot, but I know how important the music aspect is for people. So when I heard it, I knew I was like, this is going to be a pretty special song. And as far as the writing process, I didn't really have anything to do with, writing the music or the lyrics or anything. But as with every song, I get to put my fingerprint on it when it comes to the drum parts. And it was definitely more of a straightforward song, but I just enjoyed just being a musician on it and, really focusing on like, how do I bring the power to it, but also stay out of the way of like the really like important things that are going on, like the lyrics and all that, not making it too busy. And in the bridge, coming up with some kind of like little cool, little Travis Barker drum part. Like it was like the perfect spot for me to, just be a little creative and like take from some of my drumming influences. And put a little bit of my, like I said, my fingerprint on it. But, yeah, man, I knew it was a special song when I heard it. I was stoked about it, as I was for every single song on Skeleton Psalm. Like it's the one record that I've made out of the 4 where I don't skip a song if I listen to it. All the other records, I have my songs that I could live without, but this one is like every song I was really excited about. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's your favorite song that you've ever gotten to help write, and what's your least favorite?
Oh gosh.
Oh man.
This is where the truth comes out.
Like, yeah, Kevin's like I want to hear this.
Are you talking about like every song that I play drums on?
The ones that you've written.
The ones that I have.
Yeah, I think he's asking like what's one of the ones that like you skip on a record that you've been on? Man. So my two least favorite.
I already know the answer.
My two least favorite songs is Spinning and Never Too Late.
Okay.
And those are my least favorite. They're still good songs, but they're my least favorite.
Gotcha.
I don't remember what all
two completely different reasons.
Yeah. I don't remember what songs I actually even have any writer's credit on. Chemical Wisdom, I have a little bit of writer's credit on because Kevin was trying to come up with a lyric and I was just sitting up in the front of the bus and I was on my phone or reading or something. And he's like, what's a word?
Totally not even like engaged in the conversation.
Yeah, I wasn't even like engaged. I was just kind of like half listening. And he's like, I need a word for like this and this and this. And I was like, scripting. And then I just went back to what I was doing. He goes, yeah, like a prescription, like writing a
word for
script.
like, a prescription.
Yeah.
Writing a prescription. He was like, scripting.
And I was like, and that word got used, and so I got a little bit of writer's credit on it, and I love that song. That's a fun song.
Awesome.
Dude. But
when he said it though, he's not making it as cool as like when he said it, our mouths all hit the floor and we were like, oh, that's amazing.
And here I am just nonchalantly not even like in songwriting.
Oh yeah,
mode.
He's like looking at his phone. He was like,
man, this
scripting.
songwriting stuff is easy.
Yeah, no problem.
I can't write
a line. I wrote a whole song instead of one word.
The line is so cool. It's like, is there something that they're scripting? And it's like just got all this like energy to it.
Yeah.
And oh man, apparently he's just a natural.
But definitely on the new record, Scapegoat was a lot of fun just because it was the experimental song. Like we were just like as crazy and as ridiculous as we can make this. And I had been listening to so much like POD and Limp Bizkit and all this stuff. And I was like, all right, on this bridge, we're taking it full Limp Bizkit. Early 2000, like 2006, 2005. I was like, I just want to go full Limp Bizkit on this. And, ended up writing a drum solo that I was like, I don't even know if the guys are going to go for this, but I was back here in my room writing on my recording rig, and I was like, what is one thing that's never been done on a Disciple album? And I was like, there's tons of guitar solos, but there's never been a drum solo. So I'm just going to float the idea and see what happens. And everybody loved it. And so that's how the drum solo came to be.
I haven't seen you guys live in 7 years now, unfortunately. But do you guys do that live? Like, do you get to play your drum solo?
Not yet.
We will. We haven't learned that song yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I know that sounds weird that we haven't learned a song that we wrote, but like writing it and performing it are two different things.
Oh, yeah.
Writing
totally.
it, recording it, and performing it are completely different animals.
I think that's something that's like a disconnect for a lot of like casual music listeners, is they don't realize like the difference between performing and writing a song or recording.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, that's the reason why I think that Joey doesn't like the song "Never Too Late" is because all the guys they're always trying to write drum beats that he can't play as a joke, and he always ends up able to play them and able to play them well. But "Never Too Late" was his drum beat, I think, that he wrote. Yeah, and it's hard for him to play. It's not that he can't; he does it and he nails it like every time. But like we'll be sound checking the song, and he will get 10 out of 10 angry at himself for a mistake that none of us will ever even hear, notice, or care about.
It gets in my head.
It gets in his head. He gets mad. We're going, what are you even talking about? You sounded amazing. You sounded great. And the song is really good, but he hates it because it takes him a minute to find the pattern, I guess. I'm not really sure. You'll have to ask him, but like
I will say
that's a completely different reason why he hates the other song.
I will say too, when I listen back to it, I'm like, I don't feel like I was as creative on it as I could have been. So like, it's one of those where the song got released and I don't feel like it was really finished from my end, just with the recording process. So when I listen back to it, I hear stuff and I'm like, that could have been better. That could have been, but that's just the reality of recording music, And so, yeah.
It's every song I've ever heard by us.
Yeah.
Listen to it. Oh Lord, I wish we could have done that better.
Actually, yeah. Like as far as writing goes, on Skeleton Psalms, the executioner. Just to quickly talk about that, I thought especially with it goes along with the video, but the writing of that song, the way it flows, I feel like it's like got a very cinematic feel. Was that something that you guys were going for, like on purpose, like when writing that track, or was it just kind of it came about? Because it feels like it's got those highs and low moments, and it's got a visual to it, if this makes sense, but it's like in audio form, like it's got that cinematic.
Did you hear the song first, or before you saw the video, or did you the first time you heard the song?
No,
I'm
pretty sure I watched. I did a lot. I did a reaction video to that, so yeah, I definitely saw it first.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And to add to that, like I would to add to that, I would also love to hear like where the Southern Gospel intro came from as well.
Right? Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so I'll start with that question first.
Okay.
So that was actually something Josiah found in a library of samples. He was looking for samples that were in the key of, I think that is in C minor is the key that the song's in. And so he found this black gospel choir singing, this line. It was like, who's caught in the crossfire, like that. And it was in the key and the tempo and all that. He just found exactly what you needed. And he just thought it sounded cool. He threw it on there. So we didn't have anything to do with that collaboration. It's just like it just showed up on a demo one day he was producing that album, and he would send the demos, in a text thread to all of us, and we heard it, just because he put it there one day, and we were like, oh wow, that's cool. So how did the song come about was your question. And this one, you're literally asking about the two most miraculous songs on the album. Like
they're the two biggest streamed on Spotify.
They are
too.
Yeah.
So I think
well, they're very very miraculous songs in the way that they even exist. So the song started back in 2016. as a Long Live the Rebels B-side.
Whoa. Okay.
So that's where it started. I'd written those verses, and the verses are almost exactly what they were 8 years ago, when we were recording and writing music for the Long Live the Rebels album. But we had a different chorus. And to our credit, this is kind of the same story as Promise to Live. I didn't like the chorus. And I thought the chorus was weak, and I just thought it just didn't whatever. And so even though the verses were really cool, the verses were pretty much exactly the way you guys hear them. To our credit, we didn't put the song out because it wasn't ready. We tried and tried and tried. I think we wrote like 3 different versions of the chorus, trying to work on it. And to our credit, we shelved it because it didn't meet, that level or whatever. So we're writing for Skeleton Psalms, and I think Papa Roach came out with an album called Ego Trip. They're one of my favorite bands. And so I get excited when one of my favorite bands releases an album. And usually what will happen is if I'm listening to something that I'm really excited about, I get inspired to write. Mm-hmm. And I was really enjoying it's kind of like what Joey said. We had this vision for Skeleton Psalms to have a very early 2000s Limp Bizkit POD kind of like tempo feel to everything. Just like every song just kind of makes you just want to bounce, kind of feel. Mm-hmm. And a lot of Papa Roach's songs on this newer album had that. It just had this bounce to it, this energy or whatever. And so I was just listening to it, and I was just getting inspired by that tempo, and I just shut the music off and like just started writing for like an hour, and ended up writing this chorus, that was like, stop praying over me, last rites, just had that energy. It had that rhythm, and it's like, this cross is where I come to die, and even the line like, this is a hill I'll die on, they're always like these. I was really just, inspiration was just firing. I was just coming up with all these lines, these, whatever the line, the nails, or like my nails or whatever the line is. I was just all this inspiration firing, and that's all I could do was just a chorus. It literally began and ended there in this chorus. All right. And sat and, tried to write a verse for like the next hour or whatever, and was like nothing, couldn't do a thing. And I don't remember if it was that day or if it was a few weeks later, but I was like, wait a second. We've got these verses from like, it was 6 years ago at that time. It's 8 years now. It's like 6 years. We got these verses from like 6 years ago that we've never used. It's like, oh my gosh, they're like, and they totally fit, with what I'm trying to say. They're the right tempo. It's the right key. It's the right everything. I was like, I went back, I found them, and I just meshed them together. And so we did that. And then we ended up writing, this bridge later after we put that all together. So it was a very miraculous song in the fact that it was this song that we had from 8 years ago that was shelved. That we thought had some really cool parts, and we were able to like just write this new part that we were excited about and be able to reach back in time and salvage these really cool lyrics. Because I remember when we wrote those verses, 8 years ago, whatever, we all were so stoked and really genuinely bummed that the chorus sucked. Genuinely bummed. We're just like, why can't we write a good chorus?
Do you remember any of that old chorus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can send it to you. I don't care.
I'd love to hear it.
I don't know that I even remember.
Yeah, and it's not,
I mean,
was. again, it's cool and sucks and things like that. It's all subjective. I mean, somebody else might think they might think it's the greatest chorus of all time. But what really, kind of solidified it for us was we were excited when the verse was happening, and then when the chorus was happening, it was just kind of like you just kind of get lost in the lull. And it was one of those choruses. It was just like, I think I remember it was like, tonight is the night that my black heart dies. If I rise, let me rise, loving you. See, it just kind of just takes forever to just like it.
Okay,
it's like the plane is just kind of like
that.
You know, and this other one's like, you know, so I praying over me last ride. You know, you're like one intense line and you're like, let's go. And this other one just is like, it's like this runway that just is like 17 miles long. You're like, we're gonna get in the air, baby. I don't know when, but it's gonna happen.
How long is this tarmac?
It's like Fast and the Furious.
That's the chorus. I remember now that I was like, that's the same progression as "Can't Fight the Moonlight" by Leanne Rimes. And every time I heard that chorus, I was like, I can't stop singing "Can't Fight the Moonlight." So if you don't know what that song is, you should go look it up. It's great.
I'll look it up after this.
All the Leanne Rimes fans in this podcast were like,
yeah, dude. Throwback.
In 8 years from now, we're going to hear that chorus on a New Disciple song.
Yeah.
No, you won't.
Because it's going to fit that one.
No, you won't. It's done. It's
how
done.
many songs do you guys have, like, kind of on the shelf? Like, are you, because I've heard stories so like many. Skillet or somebody likes to have Red, even I think at one point they were saying they write like 50, 60 tracks and then they're like,
insane.
These 10 are what the album's going to be. Like, do you guys do that where you have just a massive back catalog?
Yeah, absolutely. It's at the minimum 25 to 30.
Okay.
Wow. And the minimum.
How do you guys know when to completely just throw away a song versus like putting it back on the shelf and maybe coming back to it?
It's tough, man. I mean, again, like I said, the one really cool thing about this group of guys is that we allow each other to speak to each other. And so it's very tough. It breaks your heart, you know, if there's a guy that writes a song and he believes in it and you're like, I don't like it. You know, or like, I don't know. It kind of one of the unwritten rules or unsaid rules, even though we do say it every once in a while, but we don't really like say it often. But it's an unwritten rule. It's like if you can't just say you don't like it, you have to actually like try to, well, try to make it better. Like just bring, because obviously somebody believes in it enough to have presented it to everybody, so it's good enough to. It's at least made it there that somebody created it in this group and they thought it was worthy to show everybody. So it's at least that good, which, you know, has its own merit. Right. And so if you don't like it, you kind of need to say like, well, what if we did this? Or what if we did that? As opposed to just like, nah, I don't like it. You got to at least have to at least like, you know, get involved, get some skin in the game, so to speak. And it is heartbreaking, man, whenever somebody believes in a song and you're just like not feeling it. It really does. It hurts, man. You're just kind of like, I don't think it's it, man. You know, I don't feel it, you know, or whatever. And, but again, that's the beauty of it. You know, if you've got 25 or 30 songs, just these guys are so talented that, you know, they have other songs they've written, so they don't get their feelings hurt that bad because it's just one out of however many, you know, they've written.
Right.
And you just have to, you know, roll with that because I've learned from mistakes. We had an album called By God that had 19 tracks on it.
You've got it right there, Chris.
And I've told everybody, you know, the reason that there's 19 tracks on that is because we wrote 19 songs. And we said we're just gonna put all the songs on the album. And now, older and hopefully wiser, I realize that's not smart. Not all those songs are good, you know. Not all those songs were worthy of being recorded. Not all those songs were worthy of the time we put into them. So a lot of them should have been cut. We could have put out a much better 10-track album if we would have selected the top 10 songs from that album instead of the 19. There are several of those songs on the album that are worthy of never being heard by anyone. So you know, and that's the thing. It's now we're at a different spot where I don't think anything that anybody's writing is bad. It's just the attitude we had was like, we're going to pick the 10 best songs. And the result is Joey, you know, is saying there's not a single song that he skips. And that's because we made sure we were going to pick the 10 songs, that at least the guys in the band, we all believe in them. You know, there's not going to be a song that skippable for us, which we've had in the past, right? And so that was the difference in the mentality of this album.
Absolutely. And one thing I was wanting to ask was, because you guys had gone that independent route for a while, and then it was with Long Live the Rebels that you guys kind of partnered up with Tooth and Nail at that point, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Was that something that was kind of in the works for a long time, or you guys were just like, hey, let's, you know, see if we can get back into working with a label?
So after doing Attack, we did it. I think we did a Kickstarter. It was Kickstarter, wasn't it, Joey? We did a Kickstarter for Attack, and so we decided we were going to do the same thing for Long Live the Rebels, and partnered with Tooth and Nail to distribute the album. So it still was us independent.
Right.
We just partnered with them to just simply distribute it. So therefore, it was literally no different than Attack as far as that was concerned. But we did hire like a long-time Tooth and Nail alum, famous producer, Aaron Sprinkle,
legend,
to do the album, when it was really cool to work with him. And anyway, so we just got really comfortable with all the folks at Tooth and Nail, and they're, you know, for better or worse, you know, their model of working with their artists is to just kind of let the artist create art. And so I've had both of those worlds, the best of both worlds. So Tooth and Nail is a label that really lets us do whatever we want. You know, they don't ever question, you know, what we're writing or what we want to say. We're coming from a label where, you know, they were constantly questioning what we were writing and what we were saying. And, you know, I don't say that in a negative light, even though it put me in a position where it was so wonderful to finally have free to say whatever I want to say. There's some really awesome value to what they were doing, because the music and the lyrics were going through so many filters. By the time it got to your ears, it was pretty darn good, because there's a whole lot of people that had to like say, you know, like, this is good, you know, like change this, what about this, what if you said this? By the time it got to you, you know, it was pretty good. Well, there's less filters now, and so it's really our fault if you don't like it. So, you know, it's dangerous a little bit to kind of have that relationship with a label that's like Tooth and Nail. You know, it's dangerous in the sense that if you don't have somebody, you know, like I said, driving a nicer car than you to say, that's probably not a good idea. You know, you can kind of get yourself in trouble sometimes. But we've been doing it long enough to where I feel like we have each other to kind of be our own record label, you know, and have each other and are able to actually listen to each other, you know. You know, if somebody's like, Kevin, you shouldn't say that, you know, I'll be like, come on, you know, I'll listen.
Hear me out. Test this theory. Next time you guys are writing an album, just turn in like the absolute worst, like thrown together demo and just see if they say anything. They'll tell you, no, guys, come on, you're better than this.
They won't. They won't. I know they won't. It's a joke that won't be funny. It's just like the joke will be that we put it out and then our career is over. That the joke's on us.
There you go.
They're like, oh, yeah, we'll release it next week. And you're like, no, don't.
I just wanted to see if you would stop me. Yeah, no, they wouldn't.
So I guess we're at about an hour here, so I know we should probably end this in a couple minutes. But I would just, getting on like a more serious note, you guys came on to talk about Promise to Live and all the stuff you guys are doing with that. I'd really love to hear maybe if you guys just have some parting words for people who are listening who maybe haven't heard the song but need to hear the message. Maybe share like why you guys promise to live. You know, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Yeah, well, I'll start with this, that the music video just came out a week or two ago. And again, if you've listened to this whole podcast, then it's kind of like that song really had this moment at Winter Jam, you know, that was really not our, you know, almost orchestrated by God. And so it seemed fitting that the music video would be us performing the song at Winter Jam, and that's pretty much where the music video comes from. And that being said, it really starts out with this statement from me that I said every night, and that's for those of you that have made mistakes or that struggle with depression or suicide or self-harm, I said, I just want you to know if just because you've made mistakes does not mean that you are a mistake, and that your life has meaning, your life has purpose, your life has value, it has worth. And the fact that you woke up this morning means that God is not finished with your life yet. And that's what I would say every night. And that's what I'd say to everybody tonight. I've been a disciple for over 30 years, but some of the worst things I've ever done, I did as a Christian. And, some of the worst guilt I've ever felt, I felt as a Christian. Some of the worst things that hurt that I've inflicted on people, I've done as a Christian. And a lot of people are very binary when they look at religion, and either like you follow a religion and then you're perfect from that day forward, or you suck at it, and or you're just not real, or you're a hypocrite, or this thing or that thing. And what I've realized is that the gospel of Jesus is not just for people who don't know him, but the gospel of Jesus is for everyone, and especially those who do know him. And that I've been a prodigal son more than I've ever been a faithful son. And with that shame is how I relate to people who struggle with depression and thoughts of suicide, of that shame of feeling not worthy, that shame of feeling like you're never going to be good enough, that you might as well end it, and the stuff I've had to live out, and the stuff I've had to confess to, and the stuff I've had to just, come clean on, all this, it has this purifying and refining effect on you when you're actually able to be honest with another human being about you just don't have it all together and you need help. And that's the encouragement that I want to give to people, is that it's okay. It's okay. It's just okay that you don't have it all together. And that's almost the most beautiful thing that we can ever discover, is how just okay it is to not have it all together. That nobody does. And that it's okay to hurt. There's this beautiful verse. My father just passed away in September, and it's been really tough on me. And there's this beautiful verse in Ecclesiastes. It says that sorrow has a refining effect. And I love that, because most of the time we are in sorrow, we're always trying to escape it, right? Through this a drug, or or even prescription drug, just some kind of like thing to help us not be sad or sorrowful or anxious or depressed or whatever. We're just trying to escape it. And you read this verse that says sorrow has a refining effect. And what I've begun to realize is that these moments of really difficult shame, sorrow, depression, sometimes they're really precious and really valuable, and really kind of help shape us into what we need to be. And instead of like trying to run away from sorrow, it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to feel not worthy, and it's okay to feel like you don't belong, and it's okay to question those things, because it has a refining effect. It's whenever you sit in it too long and you kind of let it become your identity, then you start believing the lie that your life doesn't matter. And that's where I want to step in with the gospel and just say that your life absolutely matters. And that's why the redemption of Jesus is so powerful and such gospel, such good news, is that he can take our lives, even somebody like me with all these mistakes, and still use me in spite of that. And that's why I say, if you woke up this morning, then that means God is not finished with your life yet. Last thing I'll say, because Joey could probably speak to this some more because he's walked through a lot of this stuff as well, and on a deeper level than I have. But I can say that God leaves nothing in the garbage. My mistakes, other people's mistakes, the fact that I was abused as a child, he leaves none of that in the garbage. He takes all of that and gives us this promise that's very Bible-y and scripture-y, that all things work together for the good of those that love God and are called according to his purpose. And what all things means is all things. The abuse that you received, the abuse that you gave, it's all part of your story and defines how you got to where you are. And it's okay to need to change. It's okay. It's okay that you have a past. It's okay. It's okay that you have a story, because guess what? When you overcome that past and you overcome that, now you're going to be a guiding light to other people who have walked through the same thing. Because the only person, somebody struggling with suicide, the only person they're really going to listen to is somebody who's been there. And with that being said, I'm going to let Joey talk about it.
Well, everything Kevin said was perfect, so I'll keep what I've got to say short and sweet. But as someone who has been to the point where life got so dark that I was on the verge of ending it, what I can say is I'm really, really glad that I did it. And I'm really, really glad that I'm here. And life truly does get so much better. I'm not saying life gets easier, not saying that, all your problems will just dry up and go away, because, God promised in the Bible, he said, in this life, you will have trouble. It wasn't, you probably will, or you might. It's like, you will have trouble. So it's part of the human experience. And like Kevin said, it's okay. So anyone out there who might be struggling or on the verge, as a person who was there, let me just tell you, I'm really glad that I chose against that, because the life that I have now, my wife is very thankful that I didn't do that. I've got friends and family who are very glad that I didn't do that. And I would be missing out on so much. I would be missing out on everything I dreamt of doing, all because of a lie inside of my head, telling me that I wasn't good enough, or that I was an embarrassment, or that I was never going to be worthy of love. I was just believing a bunch of lies, and that's really what this is at the end of the day, is your mind is just lying to you. And like Kevin said, it's okay to have a past, and I love the illustration of there's a reason why the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror, because we've got so much to look forward to. The future's bright, and the rearview mirror is there to remind us of what has been, but it's so small and minuscule compared to what is laying before us, and all the possibilities and all the things that could change, all the things that we can work on, the things that we can do to improve our life. It's so big, and that rearview mirror is so small and insignificant. And your past is part of who you are today. And maybe you don't like who you are today, but that doesn't mean that you can't start taking steps tomorrow to becoming the person that you really do like, start figuring out those things. It's like, how can I just get just one step better tomorrow in improving myself, whether that's, I don't know, eating better food, sleeping better, reading a verse of the Bible. You don't have to sit down and read 16 chapters to feel good. Like, read one verse, just take small steps. And as you continue to improve, your confidence comes back. And yeah, it doesn't all have to happen overnight, but yeah, if you are listening to this and you're on the verge, I'm really glad that you're here, and I hope that you stay here, because life really is beautiful.
Amen.
Amen.
Like,
Yes, it is.
I just have to say, like, along with that, like, especially in your case, Joey, and just the whole history of this band is like the music that you guys create, the ministry that you guys do, like when you're playing live, like it makes such a huge impact, like, and it's obvious by just looking at numbers and stuff online, but just on a personal level, having listened to Disciple now for 17 years or so since I got into music, it's the amount of impact that the songs have made, just musically, but then especially lyrically, and having the opportunity to see you guys a couple times. It's having grown up, you know, finding you guys in high school, and now, you know, I'm almost entering my 30s, that you guys still continue to impact me, and I'm one of, you know, hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, that you guys impact with your music. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you guys do.
Thank you. That's very kind, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And not to take away from anything Chris said, but I'm going to echo the same sentiment. I mean, I think I've been a fan 13, 14 years now since Horseshoes and Hand Grenades came out. And man, like when I was in high school, I really had no friends. I had nobody who liked this kind of music. And honestly, Disciple really was kind of like a friend to me. And your guys' music really got me through some pretty rough and dark times. So I really just wanted to thank you guys from on a personal note for that.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's maybe the sweetest thing anybody's ever said to me. Dang, I'm very honored to have been your friend for so long.
Yeah,
thank you.
So thanks for letting me be your friend. You know, as Joey was talking, there is actually just one last thing I'd like to say. I love this. I love this illustration that came to my mind that, you know, many years ago. There's this artist, Bob Dylan, and, you know, if you haven't heard of him, it's okay, but, you know, he's a 60s folk writer, you know, kind of hippie movement kind of guy, and wrote some killer songs like Knocking on Heaven's Door, that Guns N' Roses, you might think it's Guns N' Roses song, but it's actually Bob Dylan's, you know. Lots of songs. And Bob Dylan has got probably one of the, from a vocalist standpoint, probably one of the worst voices you'll ever hear in your entire life. But that's, again, it's subjective. Cool is subjective. And that's the point that I kind of really want to make here, is that there were so many people that thought his voice was cool. And it wasn't just his voice, it was like what he had to say. And it was him. And there's all these people, you know, I talked about people trying to get you to do things a certain way or whatever, and try to get you to whatever. But really is the most beautiful thing that you could do is be you. And I think one of the things that really helps us get depressed and helps us get where we don't want to be here anymore is we see so many images of other people, and we just kind of feel like we're not good enough, or kind of feel like we don't fit in because we're not that, or we're not on this level. And there's a certain type of, like, we just don't measure up. I think that's just the thing that we're always feeling on whatever category it is. We don't measure up. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not whatever. I'm not enough, period. I'm just not enough. And I look at a guy like Bob Dylan, who's like, on every account, he's not, you know, this attractive Bon Jovi looking type of guy. You know, he doesn't have this range of like a Celine Dion type voice, or the guitar skills of, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan or whatever. He's just Bob Dylan. And he sold more records than all those people I just named put together. And the point I'm saying is, it's you. This God made you to be you. And like, if you could just see the awesomeness that is you, it'll help you get through the fact that you don't measure up. Because you know what? Sometimes not measuring up, cool is subjective. It just is. Some people like Bob Dylan better than they like Bon Jovi. Some people like Bob Dylan better than they like Limp Bizkit, all right? And they think it's amazing, all right? They think he's the greatest thing ever. And that's you as well. You can't win every battle. You can't be better than everybody else. You can't be prettier or smarter than everybody else. You can't be the best at everything, but the thing that you can be is you. You can be you. And you're the best you'll ever be. And if you can wake up tomorrow and be an even better you, that's the best thing that you could ever do for God. That's the best thing you could ever do for Jesus in this planet, is be the best you that you could possibly be. So I encourage you to live. I encourage you to make a promise to live, because I know some days it's easier than others, especially like, whenever things going really good, you have a lot of strength. When everything's going bad, you're weak. It's easy to listen to those voices. Trust me, I know, as a professional sinner and my weaknesses, it was easier to just medicate whenever I felt bad about myself and bad about the things that had been done to me, bad about the things that I had done to others. That's when just bad things will happen. So trust me, I know. But if you can just get to that truth, make that promise that when you have the strength, that way when you don't have the strength, you say, I know that this is a lie. And it gets easier, because now whenever those voices come in and medicate, I appreciate, or the temptations come to medicate, I appreciate them, because they're letting me in on the secret. It's like, oh yeah, okay. Like, I feel like I'm not measuring up today. Well, I have to address that now. Like, it's okay. It's okay to not measure up. It's okay that person sings better than me. It's okay that person has sold more records than me. It's okay that person's nicer than me. I'm still me, and I'm going to be the best me that I can be today. And it's okay. And I don't need to medicate anything, because actually there's nothing wrong with me. Right? Like, boom, there it is. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're okay. You're okay. So make that promise to live, and just be a better version of yourself tomorrow. What changes you need to make them. Whatever you need to do. I just appreciate everything Joey has said tonight. The windshield being bigger than the rearview mirror. What an amazing thing to say, man. Just keep pressing ahead, keep changing, keep getting better. Don't try to be anybody else. Don't have your sights, your vision on trying to be somebody else. You'll never reach your destination. But if you could just be you, guess what? You're already there. Thank you guys for this opportunity tonight.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining. We really appreciate it.